And welcome back to Coast. George Norrie with Cate Montana as we talk about her work, Cracking the Matrix. Cate, do you think the ancients came up with the theories of Archons because they couldn't explain the existence of us?
Of us or of evil doings on the planet, for lack of a better way?
Well, you're right about the evil part with Archons, but they couldn't explain any of us. And if the Archons are part of the creators, what do you think?
I think they come from. I think this interdimensional influence comes from a completely different source. Again, here back to how we're enculturated and how we're programmed to think. Coming from the Western religious perspective of monotheism, there's one God, one source. From the New Age spirituality, one eternal light, the endless one love source, whatever you want to call it. There's one source. Now, like any thinking human being, I've struggled all my life with the whole idea of, well, okay, God is the God of love, and there's one God, and God is love, and created all that is, and satanic ritual abuse of babies, ritual rape, cannibalism, on a ritualistic basis. These are acts of pure evil. How could a God of love create such despicable things? So I have finally come to the way out of the box, understanding that the Archons, let's just go with the ancient Greek terminology, come from a different source altogether.
They come from darkness, don't they?
They come from a different source. And I call it the anti-lifeforce, quite frankly, because it seems to, these beings suck on our emotions. They drain us and lower our light deliberately. So the agenda is so I'm going to go back and repeat myself. If we are beings of pure love, we are spirit, we're eternal, then the point is to drag us down to its level. So we're at this high frequency of love. These these interdimensional beings from another source altogether, not indigenous to planet Earth, and please don't ask me when they showed up because I don't know. But I've tracked this back at least 7,000 years. Okay, this presence, this interdimensional, non-physical influencers on our planet.
Are we real, in your opinion, Cate?
What, human? Oh, God, you shouldn't ask me that, George. Real is it's subjective. There's levels of reality. There are so many different levels of what's real and what we perceive ourselves to be that goes from the most physical, limited, sick, crippled smallness to the most glorious, illuminated, expansive, blissful, joyous, incomprehensibly large part of the universe, and conscious as the universe. So which level of reality do we pick? Well, we usually don't pick it at all because we're in different levels of programming and being taught what we are. So that we live this limited experience. So what I've understood is this interdimensional influence, the Archons, for lack of a better name, they want to be able to inhabit physical bodies. They're non-physical beings, but they are vibrating at such a low-based conflict, shame, guilt, those low-based frequencies. We're high beings of pure love. We're spirit.
Are they like fallen angels?
I would not say, because the angels, again, are part of the, if we're going to call it the one source of love, then that's part of the, I think that probably we term ourselves fallen angels. If we are these beautiful beings of pure love, look at the eyes of any little baby. Anybody who's looked in the eyes of a 6-month-old child for more than 15 seconds knows that original sin is not accurate. Let's just put it that way. That is the purest, most vibrant, alive innocence. So what drags us down is our programming. How are we taught to believe who we are? If I'm taught that I'm a sinful creature, that I always have to depend on external authority because I'm so dysfunctional, because I'm so aggressive and untrustworthy, then I am going to live down to my expectations, to everybody's expectations, you know?
Let's go to the phones. You ready for some?
I beg your pardon?
You ready for some calls?
Sure.
Let's start with John in Wisconsin. Hey, John, welcome.
Hello, George. Hello, Kate. Happy first Sunday of the month. I really enjoy the guest hosts on Coast to Coast, but there's nothing better than the show being hosted by George Norrie, who is the best communicator in the history of radio. Thank you, George.
The $20 is on its way to you, John.
George, I talk to people around the country. You're very well loved and respected. There just aren't enough of you around to do other things. But anyway, Kate, thank you for your wisdom on your matrix directive. I think you're spot on. You cover a lot of bases that most leaders won't touch, and it's really unfortunate. I see it in our schools, our churches, our politicians, our business leaders. They all have directives that are self-motivated, a lot of time devious, and it's put a huge wedge in our country, which we are aware of, and it's getting worse. Yeah. So I want to thank you for what you're sharing on that. And here's the big takeaway I get from Kate tonight. And then I have a quick question. Kate, I believe you're putting common sense back in the human equation of life. That's been taken away from us. And we get confused and we get thrown in all kinds of directions and we're at each other's throat. It's extremely unfortunate. So thank you for putting common sense back in the equation. And my question, Kate, is how can an average person like me or my family or my neighbor get on board putting that common sense back in so we once again have peace and harmony? And thank you, Kate.
Yeah, John, wow, what a great question. You know, when I was writing the book, Cracking the Matrix, I put these 14 keys. How do I free myself individually? And if we free ourselves individually, then we'll have global freedom as a result. So I was sitting there racking my brains trying to figure out, well, what's the first key? And I stopped, and I just went inside, and I just relaxed and asked my spirit. I didn't try to figure it out. I didn't try to mental it out and grind it out. And I was like, I just relaxed and let the rest of me show up, my spirit nature show up and give me the answer. So I was like, aha. The first key is to stop. Remember your spirit, relax, and don't try to figure things out initially. When a big choice comes up or even a small choice, whatever, the habit is to stop thinking like a human being, which is, of course, what we think we are, part of the matrix, and to stop and ask the larger spirit part of myself, my being, what should I do here? Because the last thing, John, that we're trained to do on this planet, the way, as you say, the corrupt leadership, we think that leadership is power over. That's gnarly programming. So the whole point is to trust ourselves, which is the last thing the powers that be, including the interdimensional invisible beings called the Archons, want. They do not want us tapping into our spirit nature. They don't want us trusting our essential nature. So the first key that I do this all the time is like I'm on, being pressed with something. I stop. I take a deep breath and I go, okay, I can't really just figure this out. I'm going to let the larger part of me, my spirit, whisper in my ear. And then follow what people call it trust your gut, listen to your heart. That's so important. It's such a cliche.
Sure.
Because it's so real. Follow your gut. Listen to your heart. Feel it. Open to that other higher vibration message and let that lead. That's the foundation, John.
If we're in a matrix, Kate.
Yeah.
Why do things hurt? Like when you pinch yourself, you can feel it.
Oh, gee, that gets into quantum physics and the nature of physical reality, which isn't physical at all. Because if you take a look at E equals mc squared from thank you Einstein, there's no such thing as a particle. We call it a particle. We call it electrons and positrons particles. And when I think of a particle, I think of something like a grain of sand. It's physical. It's a particle. But there's no such thing as a physical particle. It's all energy. So if we're dealing with everything is energy, then why does it hurt when I stub my toe? It's because I'm in a reality, in a matrix, if you will. This is, as I said, there's wheels within wheels within wheels. If I stub my toe, I feel it. It's because I am in a appearance of physicality. I resonate with the chair. So I'm at the same frequency as the chair. So it's showing up as physical. That's the experience is physical. Very subjective. Because if you look at it from a scientific, objective perspective, there's no chair. There's no you. There's no toe. It's all interpenetrating fields of energy. Nothing's physical, really.
Let's go to Thomas in La Jolla, California. Hey, Tom, go ahead.
Hi, George. Thank you for the miracle of Coast to Coast 7 nights a week.
Absolutely.
And blessings to the entire audience, every man, every woman. Cate, you have a wonderful conversation, and I thank you. I thank you for your research, your observations, and I have a comment, which will lead into a question to you. I think maybe, just maybe, we're too attached to movie metaphors. Let me explain. When The Matrix came out, it was a very powerful movie, and I waited several years before I watched The Matrix. I watched it because I was wondering why all of the local high school students were wearing trench coats. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so finally I watched The Matrix, and great movie. The Wachowski siblings, obviously understand hypnosis. Mm-hmm. And Hollywood is hypnosis. Mm-hmm. Perception is reality. What you perceive on the screen becomes reality. There were other movies, like George Lucas's THX 1138, very interesting movie. But I think, this is just my opinion, the opinion of Thomas, that we're becoming too attached to movie metaphors. A psychologist friend of mine stated the way to break the hypnosis of movies is to stand up. If you're watching television, stand up. If you're in a movie theater, stand up, because it breaks the hypnosis, because you're not sitting down and absorbing the message. Mm-hmm. Perhaps, just perhaps, again my opinion, maybe the more appropriate movie metaphor would be everything, everywhere, all at once. The idea that, one, we are in a multiverse, and two, at any point in time, we can step into that multiverse. And again, Cate, thank you. Thank you for your research.
You're welcome, Thomas. Yeah, of course we live in a multiverse. I think that's kind of what I'm referring to when I say there's matrices within matrices within matrices, wheels within wheels within wheels. And so which wheel are you going to spin yourself on? Which hamster wheel are you going to get on? Which track? And you're so right about, we do get into a hypnotic, we go into an alpha state automatically, brainwave state when we're watching TV. We are hypnotized. And that's a very brilliant thing to say, hey, break the spell, stand up. Remember, you're in a movie. And that's kind of what I just said to John earlier about, what's the one key? Well, I said stop. Well, okay, stand up and remember your spirit. Break the hypnosis of the moment and go beyond just what the physical is telling you and what your mommy and daddy and your teacher and your government and your whatever and your corporate boss told you, which is yet one more movie. that we're all in our individual movies, whether we're watching television, sitting in the cinema, or whether we're at our corporate desks in our cubicles. We're in a movie. And so to take that, stand up, sit down, stop, whatever, remember your spirit. And in those moments, go back to your movie metaphor, is stand up and ask yourself, what am I watching? What's the message being pushed to me? Is it that I'm sick? Is it that I'm dysfunctional? Is it that I'm a piece of poo? What am I being taught that relationships are dysfunctional, that sex is shameful and dirty, or just a casual act? What program am I being brought into? What program am I being hypnotized? What belief am I being hypnotized into following? And it's so easy to follow the lowest common denominator. We live down to our programming. And it's so funny that you mentioned the whole movie, and I'll wrap up your question with this, is that, the whole thing about the Matrix is Neo was sitting there going, and he was asked, he said, you've known in your gut there's something wrong with this earth. There's something wrong. You don't know what it is, but it's like a splinter in your mind saying, this isn't right. It's not supposed to be this way. It's not supposed to be so hurtful, so shameful. I'm not supposed to feel like this. I'm not supposed to be driven to constant conflict and despair. It's a program that's being pressed to us. So thank you very much for your question, Thomas. I really appreciate that.
Let's go to Blair in Phoenix, Arizona. Did you leave Sedona, Blair?
Well, I was really wondering about Lahaina when Cate mentioned that. George, God bless Lahaina. In 1974, my friend Ed and I flew to Maui from California to join two other friends, Jim and Wayne, who had previously sailed Jim's 26-foot sloop into Lahaina's small boat harbor. I hope you remember that, Cate, in 21 days from San Francisco.
Wow.
And I remember the Pioneer Inn, the overhead fans there, Molokai and Lanai. It was just great. But I wanted to ask you a question about the Mandelbrot system and displaying the fractal nature of a reality and how it would relate to your concept and what my currently concept is that we are chosen. We choose this reality as creations evolving. As Paramahansa Yogananda said, self-realization is the thing, and we're evolving even though we're birthed as these animal creatures. It's just for a lesson. It's a giant school. What do you think of that?
Well, yeah, giant school. Well, that's another program. For a long time, I adhered to the Earth is a school. Earth school is a school, and I'm a soul, and I come back and I recycle through Earth school, and I learn all these lessons. Some of them pleasant, some of them painful, and so I've kind of looked at that and gone, wow, that's another program, because if I think Earth is a school and I'm going to learn that satanic ritual abuse...
Hold on for a second, Cate. We're at a break. We'll come back and let you finish that. And welcome back to Coast. George Norrie with you, Cate Montana with us. Cate, I'll let you wrap up Blair's question and thoughts, and then we'll go to more calls.
Okay. Yeah, I'm really glad he brought up Earth School because this is a belief system. This is a belief, which is, I may as well have called it cracking the beliefs. Beliefs are a matrix in and of themselves.
Yes.
Every belief is a matrix. It puts you into a perspective, it puts you into a reality, and then you live out that reality because you believe it. So Earth School, I believed in Earth School for decades, and it gave me the opportunity to excuse war, abuse, bankruptcy, misery. Is like, oh, well, it's just a lesson I came here to learn this lifetime. Well. So it inculcates us into the belief that it's normal to be abused, that it's normal to be dysfunctional, that it's normal to make war on your neighbor, on your neighboring nation, that it's normal. It's just stuff we've got to learn. Simplicity is really, really hard for us to wrap our brains around, because we are being taught the matrix of complexity. We are being taught the matrix of being in the mind. We have to do rationales and figure out all these different things, and it's just this endless rabbit hole. The mind is an endless rabbit hole. The truth of the matter is like, let me put it this way. I am a being of pure love, okay? How can I, if that's true, if I'm a child of God, how can I become what I already am? I'm not going to school to learn how to be a child of God. I am a child of God. I am a being of pure love. The constant, let's talk about the matrix of self-improvement. That's kind of a sidekick to being in Earth School. I have to improve myself. I have to realize myself. I have to be my higher self, my enlightened self. Wait a minute. I'm already a child of God. I am already a being of pure love. How can I become what I already am? I don't have to learn it. I just have to shut up long enough and get simple long enough, like I think it was Thomas, stand up and remember your spirit. Blair's question kind of leads me to key number 4 in the book is recognize beliefs and systems that negate who you really are. Earth School is a great example of that. That's a belief and a system that's going to keep me in an endless rabbit hole of self-improvement and accepting what is unacceptable. War is unacceptable. Abuse is unacceptable. Those things do not align with my being of pure love. They align with this interdimensional, archonic, demonic, interdimensional influence on this planet that is intentionally lowering our light so that it can penetrate us and possess us. That's the gig.
Can the matrix be erased?
If you change your mind. It's as simple as that.
Let's go to Susie.
And isn't that the hardest thing? We are taught, it's so simple sometimes, George, that it just makes me want to beat my head against the wall. But simple is so difficult for us to get down to, because we're led in all these different directions and taught all these different things about who we supposedly are, so that it distracts. It's a constant hamster wheel of distraction from this simple, sit down under a tree, turn off your phone, walk barefoot, get out in nature, take a deep breath, turn off the phone. Let me repeat myself, turn off the phone.
Yeah, right.
Because it's all programming.
It is, indeed.
I think it was Thomas talked about the movie metaphor. Wait a minute, stand up, break the hypnotic spell. You're in a matrix. So, yeah, thank you, Blair, for that question about Earth School.
Susie, Dayton, Ohio. Hi, Suze, go ahead.
Hey, George and Kate. Kate, I absolutely love your topic, and everything that you say I so agree with, especially the baby analogy, because babies are innocent. Yeah. They learn fear, and they learn their force behaviors. But real quick, I want to say at my age, I've been Catholic, Presbyterian, and Southern Baptist, and now at my age, I am the most peaceful and happiest I've ever been, because everything that you're talking about, I agree with. I know who I am. I am my own judge and jury. I don't let people judge me. I create the world that I want. I do. My soul, my spirit, my heart, all three of those have to be in alignment. And I love what you're saying about turn off the phone. Yeah. But you know what? Nature makes me so happy. That's where I get my energy from, nature. So thank you for this topic. And thank you, George and Tommy. Thank you.
Thank you, Susie. Well said.
Well, I love what Susie says about nature, because when they've done studies on so many different soldiers returning with PTSD. If they get them out into nature and camping and fishing, their anxiety and their PTSD is like cut by, I forget what the statistic is, but like 40 to 60%. Children with autism, get them in nature camps. Their autistic programming just it really mitigates it, because Nature is operating at a very, very high frequency. That's our natural frequency. We are life. We love the life force, nature. It's all one and the same. So the more we can align with what we really are, and which is part of nature, get out in nature, be in the body. You know, that's one of the scary beliefs around the whole New Age thing. It's all about God is out there, my higher self is out there someplace, and so it's a belief, it's a matrix designed to get me out of my body, get me separate, get me unintegrated, and always striving to get out there somewhere, again, to a higher authority. No. The body isn't even physical. When I ground in this appearance of physicality, I'm integrating who I really am, the love, the life force, right here, right now, sitting here on my cushion, the whole guacamole. And that's our power. That's our strength. Now, this interdimensional force wants us out of our body, hypnotized by media, wants us constantly in our minds, questioning everything, being very complex. That's the agenda. That's kind of the, yeah.
All right, let's go to Joe, Long Island, New York. Hey, Joseph, go ahead.
Hi, Cate Montana.
Hey.
I have a comment. It's kind of negative, and then I have two questions. My comment is that you said you weren't naive as to what's going on in the last 3 years. What was going on, in my opinion, is a Venus flytrap. This virus could have been treated with high doses of vitamin C, quercetin. The whole game was to route people into a shot that has killed millions of people. A prominent Swedish banker is suing everybody on the planet and says, Djibouti, this was just last week, that these shots have killed 50 million people. So it's a mass genocide, basically. So you're not naive as to the evil. My first question is from James chapter 3. It talks about wisdom from above, and then wisdom that's earthly, which is devilish, and the tongue can be a deadly poison, mind you, the media. Now, I just ask you to comment on the possibility of counterfeit wisdom coming from the Archons. My second question is more what you were talking about in the beginning about, you have to have a master's degree, you have to do this, you have to be that. Do you think we're treating ourselves like trained monkeys to a degree? I'm reading this book, Stop Self-Sabotage by Judy Ho, and it talks about replacement behavior, where maybe we can try, like you were talking about replacement behaviors, maybe go into the woods, meditate and things like that. What would you say about the idea that we're almost falling into line and acting like trained monkeys?
Oh, absolutely. The whole COVID thing is what shook my tree and woke me up to look at what was driving our craziness, and it absolutely is part of a globalist evil agenda to make us sick and controllable and available for AI augmentation, and which, again, continues to lower our frequencies so that we end up being able to be penetrated by this interdimensional force and literally be possessed.
What does prayer do, Cate, if we're in a matrix?
Prayer in and of itself, in its essence, is a desire. It's not even a desire. Well, it is aligned with who we really are, pure spirit. And so when we pray, in a way, the answer is already given. Actually, I think it says that in the Bible. The answer is already given because we are already spirit. We already actually know unconsciously, but we do know somewhere deep inside what the answers are. So when we pray, we're aligning ourselves with our own spirit, and we're opening the gateway and saying, maybe it's directed at an external God, whatever. But the point being is we're going beyond the physical matrix of what we think we know, and at least opening the door humbly and going, wow, there's got to be something more than this. Please, I want a bigger answer.
Cate, before we go to final calls, where do people get your book, Cracking the Matrix?
They can find me at catemontana.com, and that's Cate with a C, C-A-T-E, Montana, just like the state.com. And if anybody's interested in my recent writings, well, Cracking the Matrix came out this year, they can find me on Substack at cmontana.substack.com.
All right, let's go to Johnny in Seattle, first-time caller. Hey, Johnny, go ahead.
Hi, I'll get right to the chase. Thank you for... I'm a first-time caller. So what I want to address right now is mental health. There is a lot of work that people go into in establishing their self-worth. Having a way to say, at the end of the day, if I lose my car, my family, my money, I'm worth something. And then when that goes away, then you have something, and so you're unplugged from the matrix. The other thing is that, I heard a lot of the callers talking about the Matrix. A reference to the movie Cypress, for example. He was eating a steak with a nice glass of wine, and he said, I sure wish I would have taken the blue pill, and I don't want to remember anything.
Yeah.
So what my point is that don't you think that having a self-awareness to where you love yourself allows yourself to not be plugged into the matrix? And the second part is that once you do that, and I'll just give a quick reference, I don't want to take up any more time, but I've spent a lot of time in the mental health industry. Once you start working on your self-awareness and your self-love and setting boundaries, you start to become aware of the matrix, which is everything around you. Your family, the government, the IRS, everything. They are all testing your boundaries. And we all have a sense of not setting appropriate boundaries. So I just wanted to add that part in there. Thank you for your time.
Yeah. I think one of the most important things, Johnny, is that, I can say I am a child of pure love. I am a child of God. I am a spirit. That's what I am. Well, one of the things that I'm learning is it's really important to know what I am not. I am not this dysfunctional, corrupt creature. I am not that. I am being taught that I am that. That's the quintessential overarching matrix. And as you say, you're absolutely right. Government, education, politics, economics, the whole guacamole, everything is a matrix. What am I being taught? But so when I stood up and I realized I am not that influence, I am not corrupt, I am not evil, I am not bad. And when I finally realized that that actually comes from a different source, it is not me, it is not you. When I realized that, talk about self-worth, talk about empowerment from the God self within, uncorrupted by the programming that says we are less, that we are divided, that we are sick, that we are dysfunctional, that ongoing chronic message from every 6 ways from Sunday that we get. It's programming. It's all keeping us bogged down in the matrix. When I realize I am not that, then what am I left with? Well, what am I? I'm a being of pure love, child of God. Wow. And then to start to operate from that perspective, it's all about putting that different hat on.
It sure is, Cate. It sure is. Cate Montana, her website's linked up at coasttocoastam.com. The book is called Cracking the Matrix.